What is going on, MMA fans, gamblers, diehards, and of course, degenerates? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, your boy, as always, Clint, and I'm sitting here disappointed to have hit a little bump in the road, not wearing the baby blues, as you might be able to see, but I thought it was high time that we supported our girl, my favorite, well, the wife will kill me, my second favorite redhead in the world, none other than Team Savage, Julian Robertson. We cashed a big ass bet on her a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was high time that we bought some Throat Cuddles merch. So here we go. We got some new MMA threads to rock for you guys here on the stream, especially because I'm not allowed to wear the Die Hard stimulus check t-shirt coming off of a win anyway. What a wild week of fights. I mean, we had everything. There were 2 BKFC cards, 2 Bellator cards, one of the worst UFC cards you'll ever see in your life. And what did I do? I took out my shovel and I buried myself because I made a whole bunch of old Clint mistakes where I went, you know what? I'm feeling myself. I'm riding hot right now. I know better. I'm just going to go ahead and put my money up all over this shitty ass card that I told everybody not to put too much on. And what happened? That's right. I got bit right in the ass for it. I knew better. I shouldn't have done it. I did it anyway. And now I'm paying the price tag for it. So it's bounce back week, baby. It is rebound week. How's everybody doing? Welcome into the show. We got Dream in the chat. We got Harhovel. We've got Henry B, Mushroom MMA, Travis M. We got Z Goaler 00 watching hockey right now. I know I'm sweating out these Rangers right here at the moment. Vicky's in the house. We've got Subholman Gaucho, Johnny Guns, Air Dog, some members right here at Pub Sports Radio. How's everybody doing? Real Deal Prime shouting out the wrestling rules as always. All right, Mushroom is getting impatient. The chat is clamoring. We've got none other than Wiz Does joining the show this evening, making his Die Hard debut. Wiz, how you doing today, buddy?
Good. Thank you for having me on, Clint. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, and it's always a pleasure breaking down fights, whether it's behind the scenes or now finally on air. So I'm excited to do this.
Yes, sir. We've been talking fights and, of course, all kinds of other degeneracy in the DMs for quite some time. So about damn time it happened on camera anyway. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm coming off a rough week. How'd you do last week?
You know, last week was also a rough week for me. It was I snapped a 5-event winning streak, so definitely not happy about it. I was the most angry about the Dana fight where, they flashed the beautiful scene of the minus 2,000 live odds, and then bam, done, taken away from me. They gave me so much hope, like, okay, first bet to cash. And sadly, we got that finish. So unfortunate. Ended up negative in 5 units, I want to say, total. So it wasn't the best day in the office, but ready to bounce back and hopefully win on this one.
You and I are right there in the same boat. It was about a minus 5 unit night for me as well because I got the win over in Bellator. Bring me back just a little bit that way. But, man, I am right there with you. That Dana spot, like, I actually ended up doubling down on that spot, which is something I'm trying not to do as much this year. When I get a little overconfident, it seems to bite me in the ass more than do me any favors. So I ended up last second both going in on Rick Glenn and doubling up on Dana and costing myself, a good 3.5 units that I just didn't need to have in play last week. Can we just for a second, though? I cannot believe the stoppage on the Dana fight. Now, you can absolutely make the argument that it's the official's job to save the fighter, right? Like that's what they are there for, is to keep a fighter from taking excessive damage. Watching it live, I thought, you know what? Maybe this is my bet goggles talking. Like maybe I'm just angry because I lost money from that stoppage. So I went back and I watched it again. That was fast. I mean, he wasn't getting hit with anything hard, and he had about 4 seconds to work. I feel like they should have at least given him another 5 to 10 seconds to try to get out of the position. That was one of the quickest stoppages we've seen in a long time without the guy being unconscious. What did you make of the stoppage?
Yeah, I mean, the way I thought of it was you really saw Brady. Yeah, he was throwing those punches, but there wasn't really anything behind them. And Denard kept moving, like he was responding.
He was moving the whole time.
Yeah, he was moving the whole time. It's not like he was covering up and he's just not moving. He's still. He was moving around, trying to like show the ref, like, hey, I'm still up here. I'm moving around. I'm good. And what really frustrated me was that it got stopped. And from the jump, I knew that it was a very early stoppage. And, you know, stuff like that, it tends to leave a sour taste. And you don't want to see that happen. But also you have to look at it in a sense where we do get that in return sometimes. We get the negative and the positive side of the variance. So you just have to move on from it, and we know we're going to get one back, hopefully soon. Hopefully this card.
No kidding. Hopefully so. But I mean, man, just real quick, I don't want to burn too much of our time on the recap. But man, you've got the decision for Will Gomi that people had questions about.
Yeah.
You've got the sudden reversal of damage versus control, and Usman gets a unanimous decision victory over Tafa, doing essentially 0 damage. And then you've got the Norma Dumont-Carol Hossa fight where it wasn't even a split, Wiz. Like, how on the planet was that not a split decision when Hossa doubles Dumont up on strikes in that fight? Like, Montel Jackson finally grew up and got his round 1 KO. You love to see it. But then you've got other weird shit happening, like the back and forth on Wells and Semmelsberger. I got to stop doubting Wells, man. That guy, he found that third gear, dug deep, kept driving. I didn't think he was going to go a full 15 minutes at that kind of a pace, but he showed off the fact that he can. And then the headbutt with Bobby Green and like, bro, it had to be a full moon or something, because that was the absolute wildest night of fights. Hopefully we catch the good variants coming this week. And honestly, hopefully it's just maybe a little bit more stable coming in here for UFC Vegas 72. With that being said, folks, again, this is Pub Sports Radio. The lines on the show are brought to you by Superbook Sports. Wiz, let's get into it, buddy. We got a lot of fights to cover.
Let's do it.
First up, we have got Hailey Cowan taking on Jamey-Lyn Horth. And first and foremost, chat, I want to apologize to all of you because your boy had a long-ass weekend. There are no fancy les sexy tiles today. We're going old school here because I just didn't have time to make the damn thing. So I do apologize. I was cuddling my Julian Robertson shirt just a little bit too long, apparently, to make the to make the tiles. So Wiz, I know you and I haven't talked on camera about this one, but I am sick and tired of talking about Hailey Cowan at this point. We've broken down her fight 3-4 times, and she has yet to step foot inside the octagon. I'm over it, man. She's 7-2, 31 years old. She's got a good, strong top game, but she has awful, questionable submission defense. And she got armbarred by that soccer mom just a couple of years ago. Like, I cannot get that out of my head. The fact that, you know, a woman who should be just an absolute layup for a UFC caliber fighter caught her in that kind of a submission. Not rocked her and clubbed and sub her. No, like, armbar from guard. The easiest thing in the planet for them to defend. I don't trust Hailey Cowan. I don't like Hailey Cowan. In fact, I wanted to fade the shit out of her when they had her matched up with Eileen Perez. That's the one that got canceled. That's the one that pissed me off. Now they're bringing in Horth here, who's 5-0, undefeated. She's the LFA flyweight champion, moving up a weight class here to take this fight. 33 years old, which is a bit long in the tooth, I feel like, for a woman to be making her UFC debut with that kind of a record. Man, I almost feel like they're really just trying to get Cowan a win, get her in the door. I want to fade Cowan so badly, but I think Horth is basically just a slightly smaller version of Cowan. I feel like she can get by this first one. I don't trust either of these women. Right now, we've got to pick them. Horth is the -120 favorite. It looks like some money has come in on her. You can get Hailey Cowan at +100. I think she's the A side here. She's obviously the side the UFC is interested in and wants in the cage. I'm going to lean with Hailey Cowan, but I don't think I can put my money on this one. Otherwise, Uncle Weezy will beat me half to death with a bag of oranges. What do you think, Wiz?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Hailey Cowan, I mean, this is the third time we break down a fight, or fourth. I've lost count, it feels like. But she's finally going to make her debut, maybe. And
maybe.
Yeah, we're just going to have to see. Horth is coming up a weight class, as you mentioned. She's pretty dangerous anywhere this fight goes. 100% finish rate, 5 finishes in her only 5 fights, 3 by knockout, 2 by submission. So here's what I see. I mean, Cowan does tend to make a lot of mistakes if this fight does get to the ground. And I think Horth can go ahead and take advantage of those mistakes. Cowan's been subbed twice in her career. Cowan might have the strength advantage in this fight, given that she's the more natural girl at the weight class and the more seasoned fighter. But I just think that she does not react to these shots all that well. And when she's making these mistakes on the ground, I think Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to be a handful for her. And I do like the Horth side. I like the money line here. I already have a bet on the money line myself. And I will be sprinkling some ITD props looking towards like a round 1 or round 2 sub.
Okay. Hey, I don't mind the bold call to kick the night off, man. I love to see it. The only thing for me is I feel like if the way Hailey Cowan wins is bullying girls around the cage, and a fighter coming up on short notice, Cowan moved up from that weight class herself, but it was a couple years ago. So she's more filled out. She's more prepared. She's ready for this weight class. But you got to think the extended training camp could be a bit of an issue. This again, as much as we're tired of breaking this down, she just wants to get in there and fight. These athletes try to train to peak on fight night. She's done that now 3 different times. Sometimes that's a drain. Sometimes you can have a letdown. You can have that adrenaline dump, or maybe you're just not even peaking at this point anymore. So lots of questions on Cowan. I don't mind the dog shot. This might be a live bet spot for me, especially because I expect Cowan to be the one who wins early, right? But if it looks like she has that adrenaline dump, if it looks like she's starting to fade a little bit, if Horth has that success in like the grappling or the stand-up, I think maybe I can get a better number and get in on her live. But at this point, it's a pass. I'll let you make the bet, and I'll sit back and take notes.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to note as well before we move on to this next one is that this girl, Jamey-Lyn Horth, she has struggled to find fights. In her previous promotion, there were apparently she had an interview where she said that there were 7 girls that turned down a fight with her. That's just a little sketchy. Like, why would girls want to turn down fight against anyone? And you see the record and you kind of figure what's going on there.
Yeah. No, her ground and pound is nasty. I like that. If she can get on top position, I love to see it. And thank you, MMA Propaholic, for noticing the hat. I appreciate it. All right, everybody, we are moving right along. Second fight of the evening is Brian Boom Kelleher. He's taking on Journey Newson, Arizona boy. I love to cheer for my Arizona boys, but Boom is a longtime friend of the show. Got to root for my man here. So this is a real interesting fight here to me, Wiz, because I feel like this is like young up-and-coming prospect versus savvy old veteran that can't quite get over that hump. But Journey Newsom's 34 years old. He's only 2 years younger than Brian Kelleher. So it's not like he's some up-and-coming kid that just needs to, find some polish. Like, this is probably the completed version of Journey Newson as much as it is the completed version of Brian Boom Kelleher. So less experience. He's 1-3-1 in the UFC. Now, the draw we do need to mention was a no contest due to popping for marijuana back when it was illegal. So definitely one that we should give him credit back for, in my opinion. Honestly, Journey Newson is like an explode and reload type of fighter. He does everything with big time power. He throws good head and body kicks, blitzing 1-2 combos. He rushes his way in. He likes his flying knees, but he gets a little over aggressive. He almost throws himself off balance trying to like kill his opponent and take their heads off with one single power shot. Newson will have a 1-inch height and reach advantage here in this spot. He has been knocked out twice. My guy, Brian Boom Kelleher, like I said, he's pretty much a veteran at this point, 36 years old, and he's been fighting monsters, Wiz. We're talking Bautista, cousin Umar. I believe he fought Ricky Simone not too long ago. I mean, like, good, strong top control, solid wrestling base, good slick boxing, decent power. Like, Boom is really well-rounded. He's just kind of limited as far as his size and his athleticism goes. But it's only those guys that are like borderline title challengers that really seem to stomp him. His Achilles heel is the submission defense. He's got 8 losses by sub, but again, all really impressive names, the guys that have been able to catch him in that type of a spot. The one thing that worries me here in this spot, Wiz, is that Boom is kind of doing this one out of his garage. Like, just stalking him on Twitter and Instagram. He's not in a big gym. He's just kind of pushing himself in his own space. And maybe an in-shape Kelleher is all you need to get by Journey Newsom. Legitimately, maybe that's all he needs, is to just be in solid shape and show up, and he can get the win. But it worries me laying a price when he's not really working with great bodies. Kelleher's a minus 160 favorite. Newsom is plus 140. And Kelleher was minus 200 on like Sunday. So it's been a lot of steam coming in here on the dog. I think I'm going to pick Brian Kelleher to get the win. It might be a tight one. It might be a split. It might be a close, contested decision victory. I think his wrestling will make the difference. I'll be interested maybe if this line comes down more. But that would be it. I'd be looking to buy low on Kelleher. I feel like I missed the boat if I was going to look to play the dog, but I kind of expect this fight to be very competitive. What do you think?
Yeah, I share a very similar sentiment to you here. I think Kelleher has a clear path to victory here, and it's the takedowns. Newson, as we all know, under 50% takedown defense, and we've seen Kelleher, when he does get those takedowns working, he does tend to win the minutes, and he does have the submission ability as well. I'm just not in love with the money line price as it is right now. Kelleher has been subbed, and Newson is a black belt. Let's not forget about that, but he just hasn't really shown any sub threat in the UFC before. I do think on the feet, Kelleher does carry the power, but he does tend to absorb and eat too many shots. That's the one thing that I feel like if this fight does not get to the mat, it's going to play out a lot closer than a lot may think. Because I'm not saying I rate Journey Newson striking all that highly, but he does throw output and he does have some decent power. And Kelleher is there to be hit. So, yeah, this is a close fight. If Kelleher doesn't grapple, then it's a pass in my head. But if this money line price does start creeping towards that minus 140, I'm going to be very tempted, Clint. Like, I'm going to want to bet it, but we'll see. I'll have to wait and see for this one.
We're in agreement there, man. We are in agreement there. If we get down to minus 140, minus 130, it's boom time, baby. That's when I'll jump on my boy. But until it gets under that 150 mark, I'm not even looking at it. We'll wait and see. When I saw 200, I was like, whew, that's way too high. But let me do the tape study. By the time I was done with the tape study, it was not minus 200 anymore. So, ship has sailed. If you jumped on that early dog line, then good on you. But, Boom by decision maybe would be a decent way to look at this thing. I mean, Newsom has been KO'd twice, so maybe you want to take a flyer on Boom by KO, but I kind of think we're going to see the get the win, ground control, eat the clock, old-fashioned wrestling, put on your singlet, Brian Kelleher on Saturday. All right, everybody. We've already got 96 live viewers. Thank you all so much for joining the show here today. Make sure you give my guy a follow. He's officially changed his handle from WizBets to WizDoes. He's got some good shit going on with the personality pick. I believe just interviewed none other than Hurricane Shane Burgos from the PFL. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Make sure you guys check my guy out. He's always putting out awesome content. Next fight we want to talk to you about this evening is Stephanie Egger taking on Irina Alekseeva. Now, Stephanie Egger, I've talked about this a couple times, man. I truly believe that women's MMA is where you will find the number one source of recency bias in the sport. These women go from minus 400 heights to being like plus 105 dogs with one bad performance. And Stephanie Egger is the perfect example of this. The market, the fan base, they cannot figure out whether they love or hate this woman. She's 34 years old, and she dropped around one sub to Mayra Bueno Silva. She came back as being a decent favorite on Aileen Perez. But before that, she was an underdog to Jessica Rose Clark. I mean, like, what are we even doing? That was one of my favorite spots of the year, Wiz, was when she was a dog to Jessica Rose Clark. I was like, oh, give it. Delicious. Give it to me. I wish we got that kind of an oversight look more often, because she just absolutely wrecked that girl and was never supposed to be the underdog in that spot. The key for not Jessica, sorry, now I've got all mixed up. The key for Egger is the judo. If she can get the judo toss going, she is going to maul her opponent. She puts you on her back. She's got a nasty armbar series. Her ground control is awesome. The ground and pound is solid. Like, everything from top position is fantastic. She's got decent striking, nothing to write home about, but she hits pretty hard on the feet. She's 3-2 in the UFC so far, and her opponent here is 4-1. 32 years old, coming off a long layoff, won her fight in Bellator the last time out. It was not impressive. It was not over anybody spectacular. The fight before that was in 2019, and she lost to an 8-6 chick, and that was a terrible fight. I mean, I don't know what to make of Irina, but somebody behind the scenes somewhere has to have some insider info on this, because this is another one of those head scratchers. It's almost like the awful Brazilian girl that looks like she's got tons of holes in her game and then makes it to the UFC, and suddenly she's like a round one killer, and we never saw it on tape. None of it made sense, but she got to the UFC and now she's a beast. Reminds me of that right here. Like, I've got the alarm bells going off, because I'm like, why is Irina in this spot, and why is she debuting against Stephanie Egger? I can't quite figure it out. She's big, she's aggressive, she bullies girls up against the fence. She's another one of these chicks that if she's on top, she can definitely pound on you a bit, but she chases her opponent. She doesn't cut the cage off well. She doesn't answer leg kicks well. I mean, this seems like a clear Stephanie Egger spot to me. Egger's minus 310. Her opponent is plus 260. This is definitely a favorite spot if I'm going to be putting any money on it. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I'm not going to lie, like, I haven't done too much tape on the Alekseeva side, but from what I've seen, she seems like she's more of a sambo player than a full MMA fighter. And I think in this spot, Egger can go out there and get this done via sub in that first round, like she does a lot of the time. Alekseeva, with all due respect, I mean, I don't think she's UFC level from what I've seen on the tape so far. Her striking is very basic with the combos, and on the mat, she just makes a ton of mistakes. And I think Egger can take advantage of those mistakes. I feel like it's one judo throw away from a first round sub here for her, as long as she's able to get that judo throw. And this is also, I believe, her first fight at bantamweight. I need to look into that more, but I think it is Alekseeva's first fight at this weight class. But ultimately, I'm leaning towards Egger by sub. I think Egger is a very decent parlay piece. As much as I hate saying that about a WMMA fight, I just feel like the division is so thin right now that they had to bring someone new in. That's just how I view this fight.
Maybe so. And I couldn't be with you more there, man. I do think it sets up nicely for Egger. And don't be afraid to lay the chalk. You know, if she's going to be a parlay piece, don't be afraid to juice it up sometimes, folks. Like, I know everybody's all scared about, you know, women's MMA, and everyone's nervous about laying price tags because women's MMA is weird, but sometimes the matchups in MMA just make sense. And I think this one does. Unless she comes out, lives up to her name. They call her the Russian Ronda, which, my God, like, could nobody come up with a better nickname for you than referencing another MMA fighter? First off, like, that's like someone coming out and being like Little Mayweather as a boxer. It's like, no, you don't make your nickname somebody else who's already fought. And she doesn't even fight like Ronda. Like, she doesn't even go out there and throw arm bars the way Rousey did. Like, I hope it's a reference to a Russian Ronda that maybe we just aren't aware of or something, because that name makes no sense. I don't like it. It's not good. And I hope she gets armbarred for her sins. Shout out to my guy people in the chat. I got to apologize. I know it doesn't fit. It's like super skinny up here. I tried, me and Wiz were like talking before the show, and I've got it on damn near like its whitest setting. And it's like, it fits around my head well enough, but like yeah, see how it like pops up here in the front? It's not a great hat. I'll be honest. The shirt is not bad. The shirt is not bad. It fits pretty well, and needs a wash to get the wrinkles out. It's brand new today. I haven't had the time to throw it in the dryer yet, but yeah, don't buy the hat.
You want to know why they call this chick the Russian Ronda?
No, yes, I do. Why?
It was after she got a first round knockout. I'm sorry, first round armbar. It was only one in her career.
Just one?
Yep.
She gets one armbar and they start calling her Ronda.
That is it.
Man, that's damn disrespectful. You hate to see it. She's gonna pay for that crime. I promise. All right. Shout out my guy, Danny Betts, who apparently is my twin, by the way. Somebody thinks we look alike. I don't get it. I'm not sure. I love you, Danny. You're a good looking guy. I'd be lucky to look like you. I just don't see it. And Jack, first time live viewers, shout out to you, my friend. Thank you for jumping in. Let's get rolling, everybody. Next up, we got Josh Quinlan making his return versus Trey Waters. And Wiz, I hate this fight. I hate this fight so much. I mean, you guys, I'm sorry. Like, I'm a degenerate. I'll bet on snail races if you give me a line. I'm going to watch every single combat organization I can get my hands on. If there's fights on, I'm there. But I hate this fight. Quinlan is coming off a PED suspension. This guy came off Dana White's Contender Series, knocked out the chinniest man in the division in Jason Witt. And now, after a PED suspension, they're bringing up a guy who lost on the Contender Series, who just, Wiz, I don't know what it is. His style makes absolutely zero sense to me, okay? Waters is, first and foremost, he's huge. I'm not sure he can take this fight on short notice and make weight. We might end up with a catch weight or a missed weight situation. We'll have to see on Friday how that works out. But this guy is big and lanky, and he reminds me of Bobby Green. He plays with his hands down. He really relies on that head movement to like avoid his opponent's offense. The only problem is he's nowhere near as effective as Bobby Green was with that kind of movement. He gets caught. He gets hit. This guy is there to be whacked. And it happened on the Contender Series. Now, Gabriel Bonfim is the guy that he lost to on Contenders. And we know the Bonfim brothers are legit as all get out. We love the Bonfim bros. So no shame in this guy losing to a Bonfim brother, for sure. But that's really been his only test. That's the only guy he's faced that I rate really hardly at all. So I'm going to be curious to see how he looks in the UFC, because he's either going to fight a really boring, slow-paced, pot-shotty decision where his opponent can't touch him and there's like 35 significant strikes and it's lame, or he catches somebody behind the ear with the perfect shot and it's a Hail Mary comeback where he was losing on the scorecards until he landed that shot. He's just not the kind of guy I want to put my money on, Wiz. There's no aggression. There's no effort. There's no sense of urgency. Like, I'm not here for Trey Waters, I'll be honest. And Quinlan on the opposite side, man, I wanted to take the Dana White Contender Series fade on Quinlan. I really did. The only problem was he was fighting freaking Jason Witt. Like, there's no way you can fade a power puncher with Jason Witt. And I think I might have bet him anyway. I am not sold on Quinlan. The guy's got crazy power. Is that still going to be there off the PEDs? Is he going to get a new doctor and be just fine? We don't know. Like, I need to see what he looks like before I can have any confidence in him moving forward whatsoever. The other thing with Quinlan is he has maybe the worst competition level we've ever seen. I mean, he has fought absolutely nobody. I mean, even prior to his Dana White Contender Series fight, we're talking he was fighting guys 3-1, 0-0. Like, he just has absolutely nothing on his record for me to write home about. So I hate both these guys. I hate this fight. I'm going to take notes. I'm not betting anybody. I think I'm going to side with Josh Quinlan just because he will have the volume edge. And I think if anybody's going to get clipped and get put down, it's going to be Waters, because he plays that very dangerous game. I'm not going to be shocked if this fight gets pulled on Friday. I doubt we even see it, Wiz. What do you make of this one, and what are you going to do?
You know, I share similar sentiment when you're speaking about the money line side, because I don't want to pick either of these guys. But you know what the bet is in this spot? It's violence. Quinlan has finished in all of his wins, and Waters has finished instead of 8, I believe it is. This is a very short notice fight for Waters. He fought like 11 or 10 days ago, and he's a huge welterweight. 6'5", 77-inch reach. That's huge. He'll have a 5-inch reach and 5-inch height advantage here. And here's the thing. Quinlan, got busted for the PEDs and the steroids, so we don't know how the power is going to look like after all that. But if it is the same, I mean, we've seen this guy put holes through people's faces consistently.
Yeah.
So, and I don't like how Waters doesn't keep his hands up when he fights. They're always down. He plays the tall man defense. So he's definitely there to be hit. I think Quinlan can put him to sleep in this spot. I also think that Waters punches pretty heavy too. So here's the thing. I'll take the violence. I'm looking for the under 1.5s, the under 2.5s. Fight doesn't go to decision. Stuff like that. I mean, if I were forced to pick a side, it would be Quinlan, because I do think that he has fought. I mean, even though the names aren't the best and the records aren't the best, I still think he fought better competition than Trey Waters. So I'll have to take the violence spot, but gun to my head, I'm taking Quinlan.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are on the same page there. Gun to head, taking Quinlan. I don't mind the violence call. That's, I didn't quite consider that. I do my Thursday show where I go over the totals, and sometimes I forget to even think about overs and unders until that point. So I think that's probably a good call. Probably a good call, especially if Waters has a rough weight cut. If he makes weight and misses by like 1 or 2 pounds and is like dragging his ass off the scales, definitely we're going to be looking for an under in that spot. I would love a limping into the fight type of position where the KO comes just a tidbit easier. I'd definitely be looking at violence in that kind of a spot. Shout out my guy Mike Harvey in the chat saying he just ordered a blue Stimmy shirt. You love to hear it. Thank you very much, Mike. That's how you support me, the show, and of course Pub Sports Radio. If you guys do want to rock the Die Hard Stimulus t-shirt, they've got them over on pubsportsradio.com. Made to order. Get you one. Join us, especially on those winning nights. They're fun to pull out when you have a win. All right, next fight up, Cody Durden taking on Charles Johnson, the most active man in the UFC on the roster right now, taking over that moniker for Cowboy, because you just cannot keep this guy out of the cage right now. This is maybe the most one-sided fight I've seen when it comes to like people that we follow and interact with on Twitter and stuff like that. Wiz, it is one-way action. I have only ever seen anybody picking Cody Durden in this spot. Cody is 14-4-1. Charles Johnson is 13-4. Durden is 3-2-1 in the UFC so far, but he's riding a 2-fight win streak. So tough start, turned it around. Now he's on the win streak, but he's another guy who's fought a really low level of competition so far in the UFC, at least in my opinion. He is training out of ATT, and he is relentless with his aggression when it comes to the grappling. He pushes a heavy pace with his offensive wrestling, good posture, strong hips. He gets up on top of people in the guard and tries to beat them up from that position. Very, very well and active scoring from top position. That's something we have to note, because these days with the judging, if you're on top of somebody but you're not punching them, there is no score for you whatsoever. It's counted as a neutral position. You're going to lose a split decision just because you're in top position. It does not matter. Cody's a guy that's going to score if he gets to that top position, which you love to see. The thing is, he has poor submission defense. That seems to be his problem as well. 3 losses by sub, young career, but if you've only got 4 losses and 3 of them are by the same method, you got to think maybe that's a problem. I'm sure it's a hole that he's working on, but he averages 4.17 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is a lot, at a 41% accuracy for hitting those takedowns. Not bad. Charles Johnson, on the other hand, tall, lanky, long striker. He's a guy that ramps up his offense over the course of the fight, except his last one. That was a point that I had made, and then he goes out there against Ode Osborne and does the exact opposite, where he kind of slows down and tires out the deeper the fight goes, which is not at all normal for Charles Johnson. Let me go ahead and tell you that. He dropped that split decision to Ode, and quite frankly, was between you, me, and the chat, I still think he won that fight. I felt like that split went the wrong direction. I thought Charles Johnson was active enough and did enough in those later rounds to still go ahead and deserve the win. Either way, close fight, dropped it. What are you going to do? You go back to that Muhammad Mokaev fight. This guy's takedown defense and cardio are excellent. Even if he does get taken down, he does not settle for that bottom position. He pops up right away. And it took everything Mokaev had to just kind of hold this guy up against the fence. I don't think that Durden is anywhere near the level grappler of Muhammad Mokaev. I know he's active. I know he shoots a lot of takedowns. I know wrestling is his thing, but I don't rate him anywhere near the level of Muhammad Mokaev. And even after dealing with that monster, Charles Johnson has a 60% takedown defense. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot. In my opinion, Johnson is the far cleaner striker. Cody Durden might have more power on him, but I actually think Cody Durden's going to struggle to find the mark. I think Charles is elusive enough on the feet that it's going to be an issue for Durden to actually land with power shots on him. And I mentioned how he postures up and rains down damage. You got to actually be able to control your opponent to do that. I don't believe that Durden's going to be able to secure top position on a guy like Charles Johnson enough to go ahead and make that happen. The other key going into this fight is that there's bad blood between these two. They've been beefing on Twitter for a couple of months now. So both these guys are amped up and heated and ready to go ahead and win this fight because there's higher stakes on it now on a personal level. And I had to shout out my guy, James Lynch. Listen to his interview with Charles Johnson. Johnson has not only been extremely active so far in the UFC, but he's been coming into these short notice fights also very hampered, held up, injured. And this is the healthiest he's been since he's been in the UFC. Wiz, I made a statement after Charles Johnson lost that fight to Muhammad Mokaev that I'm going to make so much money on this man. Like, people, I think, are really underestimating what he's capable of. And this is exactly the kind of spot that I'm talking about. A healthy, full camp, Charles Johnson takes Buday out in the 3rd round instead of slowing down and dropping a split. He is now healthy. He's got a full camp. He's better off, and he's facing a lower level opponent whose strength is arguably matched by Charles Johnson's best attribute, which is his cardio and takedown defense. I think this is a great spot for Charles Johnson, and I'm just waiting for this line because he's all the way down to minus 160. People are pounding Cody Durden, absolutely pounding Cody Durden. This line is falling off a cliff, and I love it. The lower it gets, the more interested in this fight I am. I'm betting Charles Johnson. It's just a matter of when and for how much, because the lower this fight gets, the more I love it. I know that was a long breakdown, Wiz, and I do apologize, but I feel very strongly about this one. Kicking it to you, my man. Let's hear it. What do you think of this fight? Are you rocking with me on CJ, or you like the other side?
Dude, this is a really close fight. I'll say that to start off. Couple things that I've noticed. Durden does tend to slow down as the fight goes on. If his cardio holds up and he can get the takedowns consistently, this fight's going to play out very close. But those are a lot of ifs. Johnson does have really good takedown defense, as you mentioned. His striking is miles ahead of Cody's, with all due respect. I think Cody will beat me up any day of the week. But you know what? We're talking about Charles Johnson here. And I think...
I don't know. I've seen you on the heavy bag.
Maybe. I mean, 125 to 205 might be a little bit of a difference.
You got a slight advantage.
Yeah, I just think Johnson's going to have the cardio advantage here, and I think he's going to pull away late as this fight goes on. Cody will likely shoot a million takedowns and get a bunch of them stuffed, like how he did against Mokaev. But the difference with Mokaev and Durden is that the cardio advantage that Mokaev has is far more ahead of the cardio of Durden. And that's the thing that I really worry about when you're telling me a lot of people are taking Durden. It's like, do you guys not see the cardio issue? Yeah, it hasn't happened in every single fight, but it happens in every single fight that he has failed to land takedowns consistently, because when he's on the feet, he does seem like he's uncomfortable in the striking still. So with all these things put together, I do lean on the Charles Johnson side. I'm just waiting for this number to creep down a little bit more, and I will be on the Johnson side. But yeah, for those who are betting Durden, best of luck. I'm just waiting for this line to creep into that zone, as we mentioned with Brian Kelleher. And all it is going to be how much.
Exactly. Now, the difference between this one and the Kelleher spot, though, for me is that I'm ready to hit reverse and back the dump truck up. Like, I want my guy Boom to win. I think he's going to win. I'll jump in if the line gets low enough. This one, my finger's hovering over the button. I'm just waiting, man. I'm going to be in. I was going to be in at minus 170. I like minus 160 better. Bring it on at 140. Like, I'm ready for this spot, Wiz. I think it's going to be kind of an eye-opening experience. It's a recency bias spot. Charles Johnson could not have been oversold and underperformed more than he has in his last couple of fights. Back-to-back splits. People are very disappointed laying chalk on him. And now you've got Durden, who, in my opinion, and I'm sorry, I just don't think he's that good. Like you said, he would whip my ass, but I don't think he's on this level. I think Charles Johnson is a much better, more well-rounded fighter, and I think he's going to prove what he's capable of on Saturday. I'm ready for CJ to stomp here.
Absolutely.
All right. Love to hear that we're on the same page there on that one, folks. Let's see about this next fight. I'm very curious about this one, Wiz, because I might have to switch my hats out here. We've got Natan Levy taking on Pete Rodriguez. And yes, Zach, my friend, the head is too small for my giant noggin. That is a thing, unfortunately. Folks, Natan Levy, if any of you have been watching the show for any amount of time, you know I'm just not enamored with Natan Levy. I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't get it. I don't understand. He's big, muscly, explosive. He likes his karate style point striking, and he puts everything he's got into every single strike, and that kind of leads itself to gassing out. He slows down in round 2, and he's exhausted in round 3 in every single fight. And I was this close, Wiz. I was this close on Mike Breedeen. I thought I had him, man. Breedeen was pouring it on deep in that 3rd round, and I thought he was going to get him out of there. But the one thing that Levy can always fall back on is that grappling. He's big, he's physically strong, he knows how to ride the body lock, and he hangs on for dear life when his opponents start having any type of success. It's a good game plan. I can't hate on him. He got the win. It is what it is. Now, this fight, though, he's taking on a rather questionable unknown quantity in Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez is one of these guys that we looked at going, what the hell is this guy doing in the UFC? He makes his debut against Jack Della, 4-0, all 4 fights, round 1 knockouts. We know nothing about Pete Rodriguez. We don't know if he's UFC caliber. We don't know if he's got the skills to back it up or if he just hits hard. No clue. Goes in there against Jack Della, lamb to slaughter, gets destroyed in round 1. You feel bad for the guy. And then they give him a layup. They're like, you know what, kid? Thanks for doing us the favor. We'll give you Mike Jackson. We're never going to hear from Mike Jackson ever again, Wiz, and I couldn't be happier about that. He annoys the absolute shit out of me. So I'm very, very happy that Pete Rodriguez went in there, got the knockout. But now things get interesting because both those fights are at 170. And that's really where Pete Rodriguez has fought his entire career. But he's training at the MMA Lab, which is the premier gym here in Arizona. And a damn good, I'm sorry, second only to Fight Ready. I have to catch myself there. But it's one of the premier gyms here in Arizona. And honestly, a fantastic gym for a young fighter to round out their skill set, especially when it comes to the grappling side of things. The Lab knows what the heck they're doing. And he's dropping down to 155. This guy is murdering people at 170 with one-punch KO power. He's always seemed a little undersized at 170 to me. Is another spot where, like my girl Julian, I said, man, I would love to see what this guy looks like down a weight class. Because I just knew at a certain point it was going to be diminishing returns. At a certain point, he was going to be too small for one of these 170 pounders. He figured it out faster than I thought he would, Wiz. I thought he was going to have another 2-3 fights and then maybe have that like save my job type of thing where he drops down to 155 finally. No, the kid took some time off. He's at a good gym. He's making the drop. And I'm very interested. I think Pete Rodriguez might be one of these freak athletes where he's just able to nuke people at 155. Now, it would be a bit of a blind faith type of spot to bet him here because, again, we've still only ever seen him really in the first round. You know, we're talking a matter of 3 minutes of total UFC time. So I struggle to actually bet on him at plus 220, but this is dog or pass to me, Wiz. I don't trust Levy. I don't trust his skill set. I don't know that he's going to have the power to take out someone like Pete Rodriguez. And if Pete forces a gunfight, I am going to pick the gunslinger in a gunfight. I would be on Pete Rodriguez, and I would be on Pete Rodriguez by knockout if I'm betting anything in this fight. Maybe another violence look, though, because if he's not going to fit at 155 or if he's just outclassed in this spot, it's probably another finish. And if he wins, it's definitely another finish. So maybe a violence look, but I'm leaning dog or pass, Wiz. What do you think of this spot?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Pete Rodriguez hasn't seen the second round, and he's also moving down to that lightweight in this fight. I think there's a lot of questions regarding his cardio, regarding his grappling, regarding his takedown defense, and we just haven't really seen any of it. I think Levy's just going to be able to dodge the power and the takedowns, zap the cardio of Pete Rodriguez. And if he doesn't get him out of there in the first round, I think he's going to get him out of there in the second round. If someone wants to bet on Pete Rodriguez, I mean, I will not shy you away from betting on round 1 KO Pete Rodriguez, because it's almost like you're betting his money line. I mean, I haven't really seen anyone else have a different take so far this week on Pete Rodriguez, where everyone says his only money line, I mean, his only win condition is around 1 KO, and who knows how the cardio and the power holds up, let alone moving down to 155 here. Yeah, he's been undersized, but there must have been a reason that he has stayed at 170 for most of his career, at least. And I mean, whether it's, I'm not going to call the guy lazy, but whether it's just the lack of will to cut the weight or just the lack of effort, who knows? Ultimately, I'm going to have to go with Natan Levy here. I think he's a solid parlay piece this week. And I think he gets it done by sub in the second round. I think he's a very underrated grappler.
Okay. All right. So we are definitely not seeing eye to eye here on this one. And real good question from Chris here in the chat. Not sure what you don't see in Levy. Man, you know, I guess I'm not entirely sure what I don't see either. What I think what it is that he's always massive chalk, and he's this close to losing every single fight. Like, he lost to Hoffa Garcia, which no shame in that. That loss has not aged poorly or anything like that. We all love Rafa Garcia. But like I mentioned before, the volume and the pace of somebody like Mike Breedeen, who's essentially an unheralded fighter, came this close to getting him out of there in the third round. He was wobbled so badly. He was shooting on Mike Breedeen's legs for his life. And Mike Breedeen is not a guy that we rate. Giorno Valdez, he's a one-punch kill type of fighter who I don't think is UFC caliber. You know, he either wins in the first round or he dies. And Natan Levy almost got killed by that guy and took him to a decision. Didn't finish him, didn't flip the tables on him and get him out of there, barely hung on for a third round decision. So basically for me, I think it's just because he's untrustworthy at chalk. And I do think that he's a little overhyped. I think he's hittable. He's been rocked several times. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just that I don't want anything to do with Natan Levy at minus 270. So if this was a pick'em, I'm picking Levy. But we're talking plus 220. I lean more towards the dog. I think that's what it comes down to. And yeah, Mr. D in here kind of picking up what I'm saying. Levy has horrible defense when pressured. And that's kind of the thing is we know that Pete Rodriguez has one direction, and that's forward. So if he can't get those level changes, if he can't get in deep on those hips, if he can't wear this guy's gas tank down, I don't know that he survives fighting off of his back foot in this fight, Wiz. That's kind of a thing for me here. We'll see. But I'm not parlaying Levy on Saturday.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the one thing I see that is a massive hole for Pete Rodriguez is the way he throws those punches. And when you're winging punches from your pretty much your, why am I blanking out, from your ribs, like all the way down from your waist almost, that just sets up for the duck takedown. And I just don't see any other way this fight plays out, to be honest with you.
Man, Rodriguez's hands are just so fast, though. Like, that's one. I wonder if he's too quick for Levy to hit the duck under. We'll find out. This one is a low-level fight that I'm extremely excited to watch. There's some low-level fights on this card I want nothing to do with. This one, I'm going to be glued to the TV for this one. All right, everybody, bear with me just 1 second. As always, we got to pay some bills. Make sure you check out Pub Sports Radio. We do free UFC pick contests every single week. All you got to do to win a $100 prize is beat the Pub Sports Radio personalities. You pull that off, and you're getting yourself a $100 bag. Join us in these free contests every single Saturday. Make sure you check out Spectation Sports. They had an awesome fight card, regional scene MMA just this past week. We had Luis Pena making his return in what was essentially hyped as like a winner gets back to the big show type of fight there. We've got some good events coming up, more Aries FC right around the corner, Lights Out Championship coming up, I believe, this next weekend. Use promo code DIEHARD to sign up for that, and they've got betting lines for a lot of these regional shows. No house advantage. Use promo code DIEHARD if you want to jump on there. It's like Prize Picks. They've got overs and unders on a bunch of props, takedowns and stuff like that for UFC. Use promo code DIEHARD if you want a 100% deposit bonus, up to $100 if it's your first time jumping on. Check out No House Advantage. Last but certainly not least, we've got the Sharp app. Make sure you check out the Sharp app, especially the Discord. I post the link to the Discord here in the chat below if you guys want to jump in there. They've got professionals, models. They do every single sport. They've got the Sharp action report that comes out. You can see where the Sharp money is. You can see where the Joes are betting. And you can also see what the bookie needs. Every single day it's updated multiple times. It's a great handy tool to find out if you're on the Sharp side or the square side of a spot, if you need to get pushed one way or the other. Check out the Sharp app. Check out the Sharp app Discord. All right. Thank you all so much for getting back here with us. And remember I mentioned those low-level fights that I don't really want a whole lot to do with, Wiz? You and I talked about this one just a little bit off camera before we started the show. Martin Buday is taking on Jake Collier, and I don't have any idea what to do with this fight. Now, Martin Buday is a guy that I kind of was hyped on. I mean, like, for a heavyweight, like low-key hyped on when he got to the UFC. I'm like, big-ass frame. He's got those big clinch knees. He will push people up against the fence and never let you breathe for 2 seconds and jam knees in your gut the whole time. Like, I kind of thought Buday was going to be a wrecking ball. I thought he'd make it to the UFC and have a whole lot of success. And then he robbed Brzeski. After getting outlanded like 2.5 to 1, he absolutely got away with murder in that spot. And that made me rethink everything because Brzeski's awful. So I'm now crumbling on my idea of Martin Buday in my head. And you've got Fat Collier, who's still fighting up at heavyweight for God knows what reason. His output is incredible, man. He really does fight like a 185 or up at 265 because he's faster and puts out so much more than any of these guys up here at this weight class. It is truly incredible what he can pull off with his cardio and pace. But he did not get away from the Huggy Bear clean. I legitimately was concerned, Wiz. I thought Huggy Bear was having a stroke in the corner. Like, you look at that fight and his face was like sagging off to the side. I thought he was going to die in the cage. And then he comes out and lands one of the biggest comeback knockouts we've seen in the sport's history. Best celebration on the planet. I love me some Huggy Bear. I need him back in the cage. But I can't trust Collier after taking that kind of an L. No idea who wins this fight. I think if Buday wants to go big bro on him and just push him up against the fence and go to work with those knees, he probably can. But if he decides to stand at distance with Collier, he's just going to get outpaced. He can't keep up with this kid. So it all comes down to the game plan for me. I'm going to lean with Buday. I'm going to lean with a boring, greasy ass over 2.5 in the UFC's heavyweight division, but I don't want my money anywhere near this fight. Wiz, what are you seeing? Is there a spot to be had, or are you staying away from this one too?
I mean, yeah, we talked about this one before we started the stream, and we kind of had a similar sentiment here where, yeah, sure, the tail of the tape is almost identical between the two guys, but who's the more natural heavyweight? It's going to be Martin Buday. Collier is going to be the guy that's going to probably land triple the amount of volume if he wants to, if this goes all 3 rounds. That definitely can happen. Buday got out volume 2-1 against Brzeski, which is a really bad look. And yeah, for me, Collier, a lot of people are going to say that he has bad cardio out of that last outing, and I don't believe that. The cardio dump was because he tried to finish Barnett so many times that it's just he threw out his cardio. He completely dumped everything. He was like, let me finish this guy. He's about to get finished. And the ref is just there like smiling. And he's not doing anything. So I don't think he has bad cardio. But here's the thing. Buday can definitely out-muscle Collier here. I think he can bully him against the cage. I think he can take Collier down and utilize the ground and pound that he has and win the fight. He can't fight like how he fought against Brzeski if he wants to get a win. He got hit way too much. here's the thing: if he wants to take this as a 3-round kickboxing match, I think Collier is gonna win. But if you can promise me that Buday lands these takedowns, then I'll definitely have to side with Buday. But one thing that you will not catch me doing is taking a penny out of my wallet, a penny, and putting it on this fight, because I simply refuse. And I'm gonna pull a page out of my good friend Mushroom's book. He already posted in the chat. You know what? I was gonna say this fight goes to diabetes because I've seen him post it so many times. And look at him; he's 2 steps ahead of me.
He's on it. He's on
it. So I'm gonna have to pass. I'm gonna lean with the Collier side because of the volume, but ultimately, there's, like I said, no money on this. I cannot.
I hear you, man. Same here. Fireball and popcorn for this one, my guy. Do not watch this fight. I don't know that we're going to get another front flip celebration on this one. You can probably take a bathroom break and still catch the second half of it. This is the fight where you can take a break if you really feel like it. Shout out to the chat, my guy, Razor Sharp Picks in the house. What's up, buddy? Thank you for joining the show. He's one of the personalities here at Pub Sports Radio. If you guys haven't heard of my guy, Razor, you should have seen the just beautiful trifecta this man got us on the other day, Wiz. We went first quarter, first half, full game LA Lakers, and boy, was that just a smash spot a couple nights ago, giving out the cash for free. Make sure you check out my guy Razor Sharp Picks over there on Twitter. All right, everybody, we've got a few more fights that we can talk about here, but we are getting down to the nitty-gritty, the good stuff at the top of this card. Next up, Waldo Cortes-Acosta taking on Marcos Rogério de Lima. And if you have not had your fill of disappointing heavyweights, we've got you covered. More coming right down the pipe here. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, this guy's got hands on him, Wiz. I like the boxing. I like the speed. I like the pace. He's got a real snappy jab for a heavyweight, and I think that will take him places here. I just hate this spot. Marcos Rogério de Lima, he's been around forever. He's another one of these guys that got tired of cutting weight, moved up to heavyweight, and it seems like it worked out for him. He's a BJJ black belt, but only when he's on top. He's awful from bottom. He's got an underrated wrestling game. We saw him actually take down and choke out the legend Andrei Arlovski in his last fight. Something not a lot of people saw coming. When he gets these takedowns and gets on top of you, he puts that belly to work. He is a true heavyweight, and he is damn near impossible to get off of you. So you do not want to be underneath this guy. And then he's got nukes. Like, you don't want to be hittable against this guy, because when he unloads, he's looking to send your head into the third row with every single strike. He's also got some nasty leg kicks on him, which we saw work to some extent against Waldo Cortes-Acosta in his last fight. This is a great fight, in my opinion, to see just where Waldo Cortes-Acosta is in this division. Waldo is plus 135, minus 155 on Marcos Rogério de Lima. The problem for me is I don't like laying chalk on Marcos. De Lima is a guy that I take as a dog. He's a guy that I want to show up in a big spot, not lay the wood on. And Waldo Cortes-Acosta gave me a real bad vibe in his last fight, because he did absolutely just beat the brakes off of Chase Sherman. But he gave up like a grown-ass man type of takedown. And I'm like, man, if Marcos decides to come out here and grapple, Wiz, we could see the exact same thing. We could see him hit a takedown, put Waldo on his back, the pace, the cardio, the jab, none of that matters anymore. And this man could just be done underneath De Lima. If this fight gets out of round one, I expect Cortes-Acosta to outpace De Lima and win a decision of some kind. But I mean, De Lima's turned into a bit of a round one monster, man. 3 of his last 4 fights, it looks like. He's got some big finishing upside, big power, hard leg kicks. Like I mentioned, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling. I think I have to pick De Lima, but if De Lima has a real strong start, Acosta is going to be a live bet target for me on Saturday, because I know he will punch his way back into the fight. And if he gets taken down by De Lima, we know De Lima's gas tank is suspect. Cortes will probably take that fight back over if it starts round 2. So not a pre-flop investment for me. I'm going to pick De Lima, but I'm going to be watching very, very closely for an opportunity to jump in on Acosta on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a huge step up in competition for Acosta. I think De Lima's going to be able to take Waldo down, and exploit the poor ground game of the Salsa boy. And I mean, we saw how much Acosta struggled with those leg kicks from Chase Sherman. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
He barely could stand on his feet. And one thing about Pezao is that every single kick is thrown with vicious intention. He wants to kick your leg off, to kick a hole through your stomach, through your liver.
He's gonna break somebody's shin.
Yeah, and this might be it. This could be it if he keeps that shin right in front of him, like he did against Chase Sherman. He's gonna feel the wrath of the power from Pezao, and then all of that is gonna distract him from the right hand. It's that knockout power that De Lima carries. It's second to none almost. But then the one thing you fear with that is the cardio. You have a Pezao that shows up sometimes with phenomenal cardio and it carries, and sometimes it just does not. And ultimately, I think this is why I'm staying off of this fight personally, because, yeah, I'm not saying that Cortes-Acosta is a bad fighter, but I just think that De Lima has more opportunities to win this fight. But if it was that cardio, I just can't get away from the scenes in my head of blowing the load in the first round and just stalling the second two. I'll be sweating. So ultimately, I'm going to pick Pezao here. Unsure if I'm going to bet it, unless the line gets any nicer, like the few fights we talked about earlier, which I doubt. The line's been getting steamed. But, yeah, give me De Lima in this spot. I think he should take this inside the distance.
All right, we are agreeing on De Lima here, and I agree if he wins, he probably finishes. We'll see what happens. We'll see if he can hang in there. He's getting up there. The age worries me just a little bit, but we'll see if he can get by Acosta on Saturday. Next up, everybody, we have got Julian Juicy J. Erosa making his return here, taking on Fernando Padilla, who is making his UFC debut on Saturday. And I messed up, Wiz. I messed up. Because I wanted to fade the absolute shit out of Juicy J. Erosa. I told everybody, I was like, man, he is on this hot streak. You know, derailed Durden, gets the split over Peterson, upset Akeem Dawodu. I'm like, guys, the cliff is coming. This man has had chin issues his entire career. Somebody's gonna bank him. He's flying too close to the sun. It's gonna happen. But you know what? It ain't going to be Alex Caceres. No, it was Alex Caceres. Like, of course, like I call it to a T and I'm like, but it won't be this fight. It'll be the next one. I missed my window. I didn't take Alex Caceres by knockout. I was waiting for the next one, mistimed it, got a little greedy, and now I'm probably not going to get the chance. Alex Caceres gets the damn thing done with a big old head kick in round one. And I think I spotted something here, Wiz. So I talked about the chin issues. You know, Juicy J is a guy who's extremely well-rounded. He's another gunfighter. He's a very high-action fighter, has a hard time winning decisions, 6 knockout losses because he wants to get in there and bang. He's one of these club and sub masters. He'll hurt you. He'll knock you down. He'll grab a neck. You love to see it. I love everything about watching Julian Erosa fight. You go back and you kind of look through some of his knockout losses. Julio Arce, Devonta Smith, Sungwoo Choi, Alex Caceres, and I noticed something. What's the thing all these guys have in common? They're lanky bastards, Wiz. They're all tall, skinny, long, lanky bastards. It's not the short, tanky type of fighters. It's not the Ocho Petersons. It's not even the Nate the Train Landweers. It's these tall, long-ass, lanky guys that'll catch Julian Erosa when he thinks he's safe at the end of a punch. And guess what? Padilla's long as shit. This kid has got some slick hands on him. He is your classic Mexican boxer style fighter, except he's got some grappling that's really awesome to go with it. 8 wins by submission. A lot of that comes off of his back, which concerning. You don't want a fighter that's going to fight off of his back. You're losing until you win in MMA these days. It looks like that way. And he's only got 4 wins by knockout, but you go back to his last fight against Cameron Graves. He's really rounding out his striking. He's got slick, fast hands. He's got good clinch knees. His elbows in tighter, nasty. So if you're telling me we're going to get the UFC looking to like ship off into Mexico these days and really run with it, because that's what they're doing, and they're bringing this kid in, not to the Ultimate Fighter, not to the Contender Series, but straight on into the UFC. He's got some hype behind him. His only losses have been by decision, some of them to UFC caliber fighters like Dan Ige and Spike Carlisle. I think the UFC likes this kid. I think I like this kid. I think he's going to knock out Julian Erosa. I'm going to stick to my guns with my prediction is that it's going to be the next fight that it happens. It happened last time. Oh, well, I missed that chance. I think it happens again. I like the dog. I think I'm going to bet Padilla here, Wiz, and I think I might look for a KO prop on him too. What do you think? What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, so a couple of things I noticed on the tape. I mean, let's just call it how it is. I think Padilla has some pretty terrible takedown defense, and when I say terrible, I mean terrible, like very bad. And his cardio tends to fade as the fight goes on, and when he gets taken down, he accepts bottom. He is a jiu-jitsu player, as our boy MMA Locker Room just said, and he just accepts bottom. And he can get subs, but he's not the most opportune grappler when he's on the bottom. He usually tries to get him when he's on top. And the one thing about Erosa is he likes to get into these barn burner fights, and that's why I can't trust him here. Because the one thing is they're almost equally matched when it comes to the tail of the tape. And the guys that Erosa struggles with, as you mentioned, is the lanky guys, the people that match him in the reach and the speed and power. I think Padilla actually has more power than Julian Erosa on the feet. And if Erosa doesn't get this fight to the ground, I would sure be more happy if I was holding a Padilla ticket. And I'm close, Clint. I'm very close to pulling the trigger on this kid Padilla, but I just cannot trust his cardio. And if he gets taken down, he just stays there. He doesn't look like he wants to get up. With all that being said, my lean is dog or pass in this situation. I do like Padilla. Erosa's chin got cracked real bad last time out against Caceres, and I think he needed some more time off. So give me Padilla. No bet yet, though.
Okay. I can totally understand that. It's always a bit of a scare taking a UFC debutant here, but I'm not laying chalk, Wiz. For me, that's really the key. You don't lay chalk on these kids when they make their UFC debut, taking a big jump up in class. But as a dog, I've got a lot less concerns about getting plus money on somebody who can come in and steal the show. So I'm there with you. Dog or pass. Haven't bet it yet. I've only made one bet on this entire card, but this is one that I'm definitely looking very closely at. I think I like this kid. I do think he's going to fit right in with some of these big Mexican names that we've been seeing. And the UFC's even got like a little featurette about him on their main page. And that's something that tells me, taking a little walk down narrative street. If they're putting stuff up about this kid before he ever even makes his debut, and he hasn't been on any of those other shows, like he's fitting right in with these other Mexican fighters they're looking to get a push behind. So I think this is a good spot for him to maybe show out, and we can always count on Juicy J to get into a brawl. And if he does that, I think it's going to end poorly here for him in this spot. Next up, folks, a fight that, I don't know, man. I got to be a little careful on. Cody Brundage taking on Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter himself, making his return. And Cody Brundage, guys, I've told the story before. I made friends with Cody on Twitter. He found my content. He liked my stuff, started following me, and then I immediately bet against him. And he immediately chirped at me, unfollowed. It got nasty. Fighters don't like it when you pick against them. Again, I get it. We kissed and made up. We're boys now. I like Cody a lot. I still don't know what to make of him as a fighter, though. I really thought, Wiz, in his last fight, I really thought it was an opportunity for him to come out and get a solid win where he had a grappling advantage over a guy in Michael Oleksiejczuk, who I felt was still, a little questionable at the time, but he made some really bad choices in that spot. I mean, him having the grappling advantage, we kind of knew that's what I was banking on there in that spot, but he held on to that back take for life. He didn't do anything with it. And then when he tried to advance position or attack a sub, he lost position. And I'm just like, you're fighting the black belt hunter now, man. You're not fighting some tiny little dude with fast hands looking to punch you in the face. You're facing a guy who will snap your arm if you make that mistake. I feel like the stakes are almost higher in this spot because that's Cody Brundage's main path to victory is the grappling. Now he's training over at Factory X. His striking is coming along. We've seen he's got that raw, explosive power. I was not expecting him to come out and starch Tresean Gore in round one the way that he did. If I'm being fair, I don't think he looked very good up until that point in the fight, though. I think his striking still has a very long way to go. And we just saw what happens when you put my guy, Chris Curtis, in there against Rodolfo Vieira. This guy's tough. He showed off some really good striking in that fight. It's basic, but it's effective. He's got all that muscle on him, a big power jab. He'll just stick it in your face and bust your nose up, and he refuses to die. You know, if Chris Curtis is rib roasting you for 15 minutes and you don't go down, I don't know what it's going to take to knock you out, quite frankly. So I'm not convinced that Cody Brundage has the kind of power to knock out Rodolfo Vieira, and I kind of think you need that. Does he have the grappling chops to out wrestle him? Maybe. I'm not convinced that's a yes. It's a maybe. Does he have the jiu-jitsu chops to hang with him? No. This is the black belt hunter. You do not hang with him in jiu-jitsu. Quite simply, the name came for a reason. I'm going to be rooting for Cody Brundage because I really want to see this kid succeed. He's super young. He's got a lot of room to improve. He's at a good gym, just 28 years old. I do think he actually could maybe live up to a decent ceiling if he puts it all together, but we have yet to see him put it all together. He had a comeback win against Dalcha. In my mind, he had a comeback win against Trey. If this guy doesn't get the finish, it seems like he's just not quite there yet. Maybe he puts it all together Saturday. I'm not really expecting it. I have got to pick Rodolfo Vieira, and I do think he'll get the submission. I think this is going to be a grappling fight. I think he'll get the takedown. I think he'll get finished down there on the ground. Under probably again, though. I think this is another night for solid violence. I think one way or the other, we've seen that Cody Brundage is an action fighter, and he's either going to win early or he'll give up the finish later. I do like another under in this spot. Wiz, what about you?
You stole my pick. No, we're right there on the same exact pattern, the same exact boat. Friend of the show. I mean, Cody Brundage is one of our boys, and I do think this is likely another violent spot here. I think both guys can find a finish, and I think they can find a finish early. Vieira, obviously, we all know how slick of a submission artist he is and the grappler he is. And Brundage has real power in his hands. I mean, you don't really see anyone bonking Tresean Gore like that. So that tends to translate. And then you're fighting someone who's getting up there in age with Rodolfo Vieira. So, I mean, I think these fighters find their finishes under 1.5 round more often than not. And I think this is a bet that I'm going to be looking to target this week. As a money line side, I am not comfortable laying the chalk with Rodolfo Vieira. I mean, his grappling is great, but the wrestling, the entries to get these takedowns is what really troubles him. And when you're telling me that, I just can't really trust someone going up against Cody Brundage, who, I mean, he is a decent wrestler, hasn't shown too much of it yet. I would rather be a dog here, but likely going to target the under 1.5. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to end up with on my bet slip.
Okay. I don't mind that one bit, man. I don't mind that one bit. Like I said, I hope he gets it together. I would love to see this kid succeed. Vieira's got way too much back class for me to go against him here in this kind of a spot against somebody who's just so unproven at this stage of his career. I do want to check out Dick's Insider here in the chat saying Clint Brundage. This Brundage thing is the reason you're scared of Fang Charles Johnson. You know he's going to chirp at you on Twitter if you pick against him, even if he loses. Blessings in cursive celebratism. You know, Dixon, the thing is, I'm not scared of fading Charles Johnson at all. I am the founder of the Charles Johnson fan club. I am telling you, we're going to make money betting this man, and he's going to go on a run here in the UFC very, very soon. It has nothing to do with me being a fan of the guy, although I think Charles Johnson seems like a pretty cool dude. I'm not a fan of his. I'm going to make money betting him. So no, not even close. It's the opposite here. I don't want Cody Brundage to be mad at me. I don't want Cody Brundage to be disappointed in me picking against him. But like Wiz said, the under makes way more sense. I don't want to lay this price tag on Rodolfo Vieira. I am picking Rodolfo Vieira to win. I do think he will win, but Cody Brundage has that finishing upside. Both these guys do. I think the under is probably a safer bet, frankly. So I'm picking against him. I don't want to rock the boat, but I have no need to bet against him here in this spot anyway. If I was planting my flag like Rodolfo round 1 head kick KO, I'd bet him. I'd deal with it. I just don't think that's the case. There's better spots. So Don't need to rock the boat if there's better spots on the board to make the money. And that's what I'm looking for. All right, let's go. All right, Golden Octagon, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining the show. And Jacqueline, hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. We do appreciate your presence here. Next up, we are all the way at the co-main event, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not. We've got Caio Borralho taking on Michael Lord Oleksiejczuk. We just spoke about him ever so briefly in that last spot. Man, I loved Mikal. I really did, Wiz. The way this guy attacked at 205, the hand speed, like, I thought he was a murderer. I really was, like, super hyped on Oleksiejczuk. And then he got Von Flued by OSP, and I was like, oh, that's some low-level shit right there. He's too small for 205. Finally gets it through his head that he's too small for 205 after going 2-3 in the weight class, losing to Dustin Jacoby. Close fight, though. Good fight. Then they finally give him the Sam Alvey treatment. They let him get that round 1 KO. He round 1 KOs Cody Brundage. And again, in a spot where I wasn't quite sold he was going to be the guy. But now I'm kind of like, man, maybe I was right back in 2019. And Oleksiejczuk is legit. He's in the right weight class now. It seems like his speed has really held up. Like, that's always the concern for me. When you move weight classes, the dynamics of the weight class are different. He was super fast at 205. Would he still be quick? Would the hand speed still be there at 185? I wasn't so sure. Seems like it is. And that's something that I like to see. So I like Oleksiejczuk. I am cautiously optimistic on this guy at this point. But Caio Borralho seems kind of like a monster under the bed, man. He came off the Contender Series, and he has had just a murderer's row since he made it to the UFC. Gaziomir Gadziev, who was an undefeated fighter at the time of their fight that I was really high on, got the win. Harman Petrosian, that was really close. That was a good fight. Another fighter who I think is just an absolute killer. He got the win. Mahmoud Muradov. Wiz, I'll be honest with you. I think Muradov won that fight. You go back and you rewatch it. There's a lot of grappling control where there's no damage being done. And Caio Borralho seemed almost scared to engage on the feet. And Muradov was the one in top position control for a lot of those grappling exchanges. I'm still kind of scratching my head as to how he won that fight. I feel like that was a bad decision. But regardless, it was close enough for him to go ahead and get the win on a couple judges' scorecards. The man's 3-0 in the UFC. He's got a phenomenal ground game. He's got decent wrestling. He's got strong top control. Every once in a while, he gets a little overexcited and shoots for a submission and loses position, but he's more than comfortable playing off his back if he loses that spot. And then on the feet, he's got real risk-adverse striking. He's hard to pin down. He's hard to hit. He's got that karate style, that wide base, that explosive, launch yourself in and knock somebody out. This guy's dangerous. I don't know if Oleksiejczuk is going to be able to find him in there. Caio Borralho seems like the all-in or all-out type of fighter, where he kind of avoids the fight until he's ready to engage, and you've only got one quick second before you're on your back if you're going to hit him. And I think that could be very, very effective here against Oleksiejczuk. It's another spot where I hate to say it, but I'm going to lean on the favorite. I don't want to doubt Oleksiejczuk because at plus 270, this really seems like the spot where I could go back to my roots and be like, let's get back on my guy, right weight class, fast hands. But I don't know if he can handle the grappling of Borralho. I think Borralho can get him to the ground, and we saw Brundage do it. I mean, Borralho's going to slap a body triangle if he gets on your back that way, and then you're not going anywhere for 5 minutes. I think that's going to be the difference maker. For me, I think it's Caio Borralho by decision. What do you think, Wiz?
Yeah, so when you look at Lord Michal, I'm just going to consider him and say Lord. So when you look at the Lord's...
That's fair.
His nickname. When you look at Michal's last fight against Cody Brundage, yeah, he gave up some takedowns. And the back, I mean, if that happens, as you mentioned, against Caio, I feel like the fight ends shortly after. Caio is a very underrated submission grappler, black belt, and Michal's been subbed multiple times in his career. Massive advantage for Caio once this hits the mat. If and once is what I was looking to say. Because in all of Caio's fights, there's one common theme, and it's the takedowns. He has proven that he can land them consistently in the UFC. And Michal, I feel like his body is still... It's almost funny to say this, but he's still almost like undersized for the division. The guy doesn't carry too much muscle, and then on the other side, you see Caio with the six-pack and huge arms, massive strength advantage in this position too. So when you see Caio take people down in UFC level, he does tend to hold them down on the mat for quite some time and almost draining the whole round. He did it against Petrosian, and I think he's going to do the same here. In the striking, I think it's an interesting matchup. I mean, both guys standing in a southpaw stance, and we know how hard Michal hits. But Caio's striking, I feel, is underrated in a sense where he's very accurate, and he does have some decent power, just not the just not
the dog's barking mid breakdown, man.
Oh. Yeah, that's why I had to stop there. I'm like, oh, just reverse this real quick. You guys didn't hear anything, right? With
Pump
the old Men in Black. You didn't see. But yeah, all of that being said, I think Caio's jiu-jitsu is going to shine in this matchup. And I think he grabs a sub win here, probably in the second round. I think I'm betting second round sub on Caio, and then I have him parlayed up with Natan Levy from earlier. So, That's my position on this fight. I'm a big Caio fan. Caio he was my largest bet ever against Armin Petrosian. I got a really good number. So
nice.
Yeah, big fan.
Good deal. And man, he's been gone for 6 months. You know, this is another thing where dude's 30 years old. He's in his prime. He's definitely still at that age where he can make adjustments and improve and get better. And like you mentioned, Oleksiejczuk has had some trouble with the grapplers before. I'm glad you mentioned it because that was my bring it around moment. Sometimes I like to tee it up a little bit, start the breakdown, kick it to the guest, and then save that trump card in my back pocket at the end. Jimmy Crute, man, like not just the Vaughn flu choke with OSP, but that round one blasting of Jimmy the Brute Crute, like this guy just doesn't seem to know what he's doing on the mat, Wiz. And he did a good enough job getting up from Cody Brundage in his last fight. But again, it was like all back control, and he made the wrong move a couple different times, and Brundage just couldn't do anything about it. Kyle's not going to miss that chance. I think you're right. I think you may have swayed me. I said Borralho by decision. I think I'm flipping over to sub, man. I think I'm with you. I think Caio is going to have an opportunity to finish. Let's go violence. Violence all day, baby.
Let's get it. Violence.
Let's go.
Where's
all right, everybody. We're burning through this card in record time. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast on Pub Sports Radio. I'm joined by my guy Wiz Does. Make sure you give him a follow over on social media. He's doing fighter interviews and all kinds of awesome content, so make sure you go check him out. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like button for me because my mom will cry if I don't get enough likes on this video. Let's talk about the main event of UFC Vegas 72. Song Yadong taking on Ricky Simón. This fight I spoke about with another guest a week ago, so you guys have already kind of heard my thoughts and opinions here on this one. They plunked it from that awful card, which is good because they really didn't want to go head-to-head with Bellator when Patchy Mix was getting crowned for $1 million. They shortened the UFC card just in time to go ahead and end the show before everybody jumped ship anyway. And now we've got a much better main event, in my opinion. Anyway, this fight is awesome, Wiz. It deserved the 5-round main event treatment. I am stoked that we get a full 5 minutes or 5 rounds of this fight or less. Song Yadong is my guy. I love this kid. He is a monster, a sleeping beast, just waiting for his opportunity. He's getting better every single time we see him out there. And it bears mentioning, last fight was his first opportunity at a 5-round main event slot against Corey Sandhagen, a guy who is proven to be a top 3 fighter in this weight class. He was even on the scorecards going into that fight, Wiz. And I'm not talking about my opinion. I'm not saying that's how I saw the fight. The official judges' scorecards, it was 2-2 going into round 5 of that fight. And if you ask me, he had the momentum going into that 5th round. The cut stoppage is the only reason that fight ended. A very unlucky way for this kid to miss his opportunity at potentially snagging a title shot. Like, who knows what we're talking about with Song Yadong if he gets his hand raised. And frankly, Wiz, what does this number look like if they go to round 5 and he wins a 5-round decision over Corey Sandhagen? Is this number the same this week? I don't think it is. Ricky Simón has also been my guy. He's another guy that I've done really well with in the past. This is an interesting spot for him, though, and I would almost consider it, well, not almost, I'd consider this a step up in competition. Ricky has fought Gianno Perillo, who, Brian Kelleher, which we talked about the strength and athleticism difference being the problem. He knocked out a Sun Sao, showed a new wrinkle to his game, showed that evolving power and striking. Good on him. Beat Jack Shore, who was not built for that weight class anymore and had to leave the division after that. But we've also seen is maybe a little bit of an overhyped prospect. He's taking on Song Yadong. Wiz, the wrong guy is favored. The wrong man is favored in this fight. Song Yadong should be favored. Song Yadong is going to be able to defend the takedowns, work back up to his feet, and on the feet, he's the much cleaner striker. Maybe when Ricky powers up Goku style and fastballs an overhand, maybe he hits harder in that circumstance. In any other striking circumstance, I give the power edge to Song Yadong on the feet. We've seen him do literally the splits when somebody has had one of his legs and he's still had the strength to keep his balance and get back up to his feet on, 1 foot and then defend that takedown and not get taken down. I think Simone is going to have a real hard time getting these takedowns. And a lot of people out there are saying that the 5-round fight favors Ricky Simone. I actually think it's the opposite. I was planning on betting Song Yadong in the 15-minute fight anyway. Now that it's 5 rounds, I am far more excited about betting Song Yadong in this spot because he proved to me in his last fight that not only can he go the 25 minutes, but he's still throwing heavies in the 4th round of that fight. Now Ricky Simone is the one under the microscope. We know he's got good cardio. We know he's got good pace, but can he keep that up for 15 straight minutes? And can he do it when he can't necessarily dominate the grappling? What if he can't get the takedowns and it's 20 minutes into the fight and this kid is still punching you in the mouth, Wiz? I don't think that Simone is going to be able to take the punishment coming the other direction. And I know this is something a lot of people have talked about and everyone points to it, and it's kind of an easy thing to mention. But Uriah Faber is the last guy to smoke Ricky Simone. 1st round knockout. Absolutely destroyed this man. And that's Song Yadong's coach. So they have analyzed Simone before. They have game planned for Simone before. They have beaten Simone before. And now you've got a younger, faster, stronger, harder hitting version of Uriah Faber who gets to run it back in a 5-round fight. And the extra 2 rounds, let's say Ricky Simone gets up 3 rounds to none. Let's say he does get the takedowns. Everything's going perfect for Ricky. I got 10 more minutes for Song Yadong to catch this guy at the end of the fight. That's my fail-safe in this spot is okay, so in a 15-minute fight, if Ricky banks 2 rounds and survives the 3rd, he wins that fight. That's why I feel like it favors him. If Ricky Simone dominates and banks 15 minutes, we got 2 rounds left, baby. That right hand could still be coming down the pipe. I am super in on this spot. 2-unit play, Song Yadong, plus 110. And I know I said I'm trying to be better about my unit sizing, Wiz. I'm really struggling to not overdo it and overextend. I want to put more on it. I want to put more money on Song Yadong in this spot. I need to pump the brakes. I need to be careful. And you know what? I've been trying really, really, really hard to identify the fights where it's that's the easy money right there. And just grab the bag and walk away. That might be Song Yadong on Saturday. It might be the only bet that I need. I might do a bigger bet on Song Yadong and say, you know what? I've got leans on these other spot on the card and it doesn't matter. I'm not going to take them because I'm smashing Song Yadong in the main event and just put my nuts on the counter and hope I get paid for it. What are you doing in this spot, Wiz? What do you think about this fight? And are you with me on the Asian sensation kid here, the Kung Fu kid, Song Yadong?
Yeah, man. I mean, all I've been seeing on Twitter recently is Ricky Simone moneyline, Ricky Simone moneyline, Ricky Simone moneyline, and I see why people are playing Ricky Simone. And you look at it, the grappler versus striker matchup, and most of the time you take the grappler. And honestly, I don't get it in this specifically. I think Yadong Song has fought the much better strength of schedule in the UFC. That's one thing. And the second thing that I've seen blown up too many times is the win over Merab, which was some time ago that Ricky Simón has had. They've just blown that up way
They
too
have
much.
been running that highlight a lot lately, haven't they?
It's like, oh, but he beat Merab. How long ago? When? It's like, come on. We have to.
Maybe the weirdest finish in UFC history, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. We have to take things into perspective, and we have to really take into account how fights are ended. Like, is it a fluke finish, or is it like a, more of a legit kind of finish? Anyways, I think Yadong is going to be able to come back up and take I think he's going to be able to take Ricky Simón down. Believe it or not, I know this is going to be somewhat of a hot take. I think Yadong Song might be able to take Ricky Simón down in round 4 and round 5, and maybe win via ground and pound. That's my actual prediction. I think Ricky Simón's cardio is not going to hold up at the pace that Song keeps up in this fight, especially 3 rounds of the constant striking. If it does stay there, it's going to be nightmares for the cardio of Ricky Simón, who's never been 5 rounds. And the way Song punches, it has put a lot of people to sleep where it has severely compromised opponents. And he was doing damage on Corey Sandhagen, as much as I hated saying that because I was on the Sandhagen side in that fight. So all things pointing to me playing the Song moneyline here. I'm not sure how much. I haven't locked in that bet yet. But I do think Song can probably get him out of there in the later rounds via knockout. I just think it's a little bit too quick, too early for Ricky Simón here. He has a lot of time to develop. He's still a young fighter. I just think the striking needs some work, and his striking defense needs some work. We saw Jack Shore hit him a couple of times pretty cleanly, and if that was Song, who knows how he would have reacted. He hasn't really faced someone with that much power in the hands and speed. I think he's going to be the faster striker in this matchup too, as
Way
Song.
faster.
So give me Song money line. That's the way I'm leaning.
Wiz, if I could piggyback off that, if you guys remember the Ray Borg fight, that was a barn burner. Like, these guys scrambled up and down the cage. They went a hard 15 minutes, and there was a lot of striking in that fight. And Borg sat down on some big shots. You know how many knockouts Ray Borg has on his record there, Wiz? 1. This man is not a power puncher. And he had open field on Ricky Simón's face. I think Song Yadong's going to knock Ricky Simón out on Saturday. I really do. That's it, folks.
Wait.
That was UFC Vegas 72. Wiz and I, only a couple disagreements today, just a few. We're mostly lining up, I think, here on our reads this weekend, and hopefully that leads to money. You guys know the deal with the show, though. We're trying to give you all the information that we possibly can to help you make a more intelligent bet. So go out there. Good luck. Remember, bankroll management is extremely key. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. It's going to help make gambling a fun experience for you rather than a nightmare experience. Wiz, thank you so much for joining me on the show, my guy. The floor is yours if you want to tell the people what you've got going on, if you've got shows coming up or anything, if they can find you or support you anywhere. Feel free right now, my guy.
Absolutely. First and foremost, Clint, thank you so much for having me on. It's always fun talking fights with you, whether it's in the DMs or whether it's on the show. I'm always more than happy to. Oh, the dogs. Always more than happy to.
Dog barking on the main event. Let's go.
Exactly. That only spells money to me. But in all realness, I do host a show called Personality Pick, where I interview your guys' favorite MMA personalities from MMA media to MMA Twitter to UFC fighters and PFL fighters, Bellator, anything you could think of. And Clint was actually my first guest on the show ever. He was the lead-off episode, and man, was I nervous in that one. I'm like, first ever YouTube video. Oh my God. But later on this week, I'm also going to be releasing a breakdown video. I break down fights in a minute or less. Just try to keep it more on the lighter side, something quick to digest. Other than that, you can find me at WizDoes on both YouTube and Twitter. I release bets for almost every sport there is on known to mankind, Russian ping pong, everything.
I like it. No, this man's an absolute killer with the no runs in the first inning. So make sure you check him out over there on Twitter. Thank you guys again so much for joining the show. Thank you to Miss Julian Robertson for cashing tickets for us and, allowing me a couple extra bucks to buy a t-shirt and a hat from her. We really appreciate that one. Make sure you subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio, everybody. We've got some awesome MMA right around the corner. If you guys aren't on Twitter or have like an outlet that you follow, the announcements have been off the hook the last week. We've got the summer months. They've got fight week. It's going to be a great time to be an MMA fan. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. This is maybe the week where you can safeguard your bankroll just a little bit. You don't have to go nuts on this fight card. Very volatile. If you want to steer into the storm and come out with all the bags of money, you go right freaking ahead. I will always support you doing that, but just be careful. Pick your spots wisely. If you want to bet or gamble on one of these spots, make sure you're very connected and let's fucking go. The Rangers tied it up. That's what I needed to see. I got a big bet on the New York Rangers on hockey night. Sorry. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining the show. Make sure you give Wiz a follow. And of course, I'm going to tweet out my official action later on in the week. I'm sorry. I've signed off 3 times and then reined it back in because I can't shut the fuck up right now. I will be joining the Couch Warrior on his show tomorrow night. So shout out my guy Couch Warrior for the invite. I'm going on the Couch Warrior podcast. You can check that out tomorrow night on his channel. The Total Takedown Thursday, the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show Friday. And then, of course, we've got the live companion stream right here on Pub Sports Radio for the fight night on Saturday. Kick some ass, everybody. Get out there. Make your mamas proud. I'm proud of you anyway. Have a great week.